Hi everyone, my name is Amy, and today I'm really happy to present my work called Feature-Informed Latent Space Regularization for Music Source Separation. And this work was done when I was a master's student at Georgia Tech with my supervisor, Professor Alexander Lerch. And before going into detail, I want to first give you some introduction. So the task we are studying is called music source separation. And the source separation aims to separate the individual track for each instrument from a mixture of music. So for example, here we have a mixture of 3 instruments, and after it goes through the source separation system, it will separate into 3 different tracks for each instrument. And why we want to do source separation? Because there are a lot of applications. For example, we can use that for remixing, we can use that to build karaoke track, we can use that to help building hearing aid system. But one of the problems of current source separation system is that it lacks of training data. So for example, we can see the third data sets called MuseDB18, which is commonly used in most of the previous source separation system, which contain only lower than 20 hours of training data. And there's another synthesized data set called Slack proposed in recent year, which contain around 140 hours of training data. But when we compare this training data with other data sets from other domains, for example, the audio sets data sets in music auto tagging domain, and it contains like 6,000 hours of training data. So for source separation, it's still very lacks of training data. As a result, in this work, we want to explore whether it is possible to use transfer learning approach on source separation problem. And the idea is that we have a large-scale pre-trained model learn from large amount of training data. For example, we learn from audio sets contains 6,000 hours of training data. And then we want to use these data sets to help the downstream task. And this kind of method have been used successfully in lots of domains. For example, in NLP domain, we have BERT's model. In image domain, we have ImageNet. In audio domain, we have VGG each feature. And in music domain, we have Jukebox. And one of the common way of doing transfer learning is to directly extract the learn feature from the pre-trained model and incorporate the feature into the target model we are interested in. And by incorporating, we can just simply adding the feature with the input or directly concatenate the feature with the input or the mid-layer representation. However, this kind of approach have one critical drawback, is that we have to incorporate the pre-trained model during the inference time to extract the representation we are interested in. And this can gradually increase the computational burden during inference because we know this kind of pre-trained model always contains large amount of parameters. So in this work, we also explore another approach called teacher-student learning for knowledge distillation. So the high-level idea is that we use the learn feature to guide the learning of the source separation system. So the pre-trained model is the teacher model, and the source separation system is the student model. And we only use the teacher model during training time to transfer the knowledge to the student model, but during inference time, we don't need this kind of pre-trained model. And I'll explain in detail later. So let's dive into the details. So this is the diagram of our proposed system. The top part is the source separation system. So at audio, it extracts the input representation, such as STFD, go to encoder to extract a kind of mid-layer embedding space. And then a decoder is used to reconstruct the embedding back to the target sources or separated sources we are interested in. And in our paper, we choose one of the state-of-the-art system called cross-openomics to do the experiment. And here is the structure of cross-openomics. So the input mixture audio goes through different branches, which can extract the information for different sources. And at the end, we'll construct the separated sources for each instrument or each target we are interested in. So here, because each sources have its own branch, so we can get the embedding space for each sources by just getting the embedding from each branch. And the bottom part is the pre-trained feature we are interested in. So here we choose the VGG-ish model, which is pre-trained on audio sets, data sets contain 6,000 of training data. And when we use this pre-trained model to extract the learn feature from the audio. So by audio, there are two ways to extract audio. First is the mixture of the learn feature, which is the input we're interested in. And the other is the output sources, the target sources we are interested in. So we can extract the learn feature from both mixture and the target sources. So now we have two things. One is the embedding from the source separation model. The other is the learn feature from the audio. And then let's take a look at how we combine these two features into our pipeline. So the most direct way is through concatenation, just like simply concat the learn feature or the VGG feature with the embedding of the source separation system. And because we don't have any like ground truth separated tracks during inference time, so we only use the mixture VGG-ish feature to concatenate. And the other two method is called regularization method, which is also similar to the teacher-student learning for knowledge distillation I talked about earlier. And I will now explain details. So imagine we have 4 sources for source separation system. And these 4 sources are supposed to be very different from each other because they are from different instruments. And then we want these 4 sources to be separate in the embedding space, because we don't want the model to confuse that. And we also identified that for the VGG-ish embedding space learn feature, it can actually separate these 4 sources. So we want to transfer this kind of discriminative power from the VGG-ish feature to the embedding space we are interested in. And how we transfer the knowledge, we use the VGG-ish feature to regularize the distance in the embedding space of source separation model. And to regularize the distance, we propose 2 ways of doing that. The first way is called contrastive regularization methods. So we minimize the cosine similarity between the embedding space and the VGG-ish feature if they are from the same instrument category. And at the same time, we also maximize the embedding space and the VGG-ish feature if they are from a completely different instrument category, so that the same instrument will be grouped into the same corner and different instruments will be separate from each other. So that is our idea for the first methods. And similar second methods is called, distance-based regularization methods. So we use the distance between 2 pairs of embedding. And these 2 embeddings distance should be similar to the distance between 2 corresponding VGG-ish feature. So if these 2 pairs of embedding are from similar instrument, then the VGG-ish feature should identify that and say you have to be close to each other. But if they are from different instruments, then the VGG-ish feature say, oh, you are from different instruments, so you have to be separate from each other. So this is the 2 regularization method we propose. And because of that, we have an extra loss term beside for the source separation loss term. So these 2 loss terms combine together to update the model during training time. And yep, that is the idea of our proposed methods. And let's take a look at the experiment section. So following the previous work, we use MuseDB datasets. We contain 4 instruments, vocal, bass, drums, and others. And we report 3 evaluation metrics, SDR, SIR, and SAR score. And here is the evaluation result. So unfortunately, the SDR score, which is the quality of source separation, doesn't improve by either of our methods. But when we look at SIR score, which is to identify whether there are some interference inside the target source. So if we want to separate bass, ideally there will be like no drum or no bass in the bass separated source. So we can see that for SIR score, all the 3 methods, which is the green, yellow, and orange bar here, can improve the SIR scores, which means VGG-ish feature can help to distinguish different instruments and decrease the interference in the target source. And if we look at the other category, which is the top right corner here, and we couldn't see any improvement by using regularization method. That is because if we're forcing them to be one category, and it will confuse the model because the others contain lots of different instruments inside. And then we look at the SAR score, which is to identify whether there are some artifact inside the targeted source. So we can see that when using our proposed method, we can also slightly increase the SAR score and decrease the artifact in our target sources or separated sources. And then we also compare between different methods. So let's compare first between two regularization methods, which is the yellow bar, which is the contrastive method, and the orange bar is the distance-based method. We can see that generally distance-based regularization method perform better than the contrastive methods. That is because for the contrastive method, we force them to be similar to VGG each feature. But for the distance-based, we give them the freedom to control themselves in their own embedding space. And then we compare the regularization methods with the concatenation methods, which is the yellow and orange bar compared to the green bar here. And we can see that there is no advantage between these two methods. However, for the regularization methods, we have to say that it gives the model freedom during inference time because we don't need the pre-trained model during inference time. So it can decrease the computational burden. And this is an extra experiment we done after the paper is published because we learned from source separation system that the proposed method have really strong discriminative power. So we're thinking whether it can be useful in classification tasks, such as auto-tagging or music classification. So we done on two datasets, which is the DAFx20in and Magna-Tegna2 datasets, which show that our proposed method, the two regularization method, can also improve from the baseline methods. And the concatenation methods, which is the third line here, couldn't improve. So that is another advantage of our proposed method in classification task. So yeah, this is some brief introduction of our work. If you have any question, can look at our paper or feel free to talk to me after. So thank you.